as you can see, I've already applied the paper mache. The way that you do that is you have to, first of all, you have to mix your paper mache mix. And that's going to be, it could be 1 part glue, 1 part water. I like to make it a little bit stronger on the glue side so you don't have to do as many layers. Once you do that, you get your little brush. Make sure you use a brush that's not very expensive. And you just put a little bit of your mix on. Take your paper, tear a piece of your paper. The smaller the pieces, you know, the more detail you can get. Put that on, what you just did, and put glue over that, or not glue, but your paper mache mix. And that, in essence, is what I did to the whole thing. Now, the glue that I'm using here is wood glue. I started off with Elmer's glue, but I don't think that matters very much. I think the wood glue will be a little bit stronger. And if you have that available to you, then use that. But if you just have Elmer's glue available, that's okay too. After you put on 2 layers at least, then you could go ahead and start working on the eyes. Alright, it's time to start working on the details of the mask. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to put in some eyes while still trying to keep the hole open for my own vision. This might be harder for some of you than others, but I think if I place it somewhere right around there, then the hole for my vision will still be functional. So the way that I did this, it's very easy actually, is you just get a sheet of paper and you have to crumple it up into a tight ball, as tight as you can get it. Once you do that, you need to tape all around that, tightening it as much as you can. And I know this isn't smooth, but when you add the plaster later, we can smooth it out. And now what I'm going to do is exactly what I did to this one, and I'm just going to add tape, tightening it, tightening it until I have 2, and then I'm going to go ahead and glue them inside the eye socket. Okay, once your eyes are in, you have to find yourself a good reference. So whatever reference you've been working on up until now, you need to pull it back out. So that way we're going to detail the space around the eyes to get it even more accurate. But before that, I'm going to start drawing in with a pencil some of the details that I want to add, like the nose and things like that. I quickly drew in a nose and I observed my reference carefully, and it led me to the realization that I'm going to have to raise this up a bit, and then I'm going to shape the eye, trying to keep the hole or some hole for me to see open, but I am definitely going to close the back and shape it like my reference. So the eye needs to shrink a bit, and you see that the top right above the nose, that needs to come up a bit. As far as the nose is concerned, I think I'm just going to add a little bit of texture just with the hot glue gun, and that's what I'll be working on next. So I'm going to, and you need to look at your reference carefully and figure out what's best for you. Obviously you're not all going to be doing the same thing, but whatever is best for you. So I'm going to raise this up a bit, and I'm going to try to add some wrinkles in there when I do that, and I'm also going to shape the eye to make it smaller and a bit more realistic, as well as adding a bit of texture in these spots just with the hot glue gun, and I'm going to shape it with the hot glue gun as well. And then after that we will address the teeth. I've got myself some tissue and I just rolled it up, just regular tissue, And what I'm going to try to do, hopefully I'll be successful, and I'll let you know, is I'm going to apply glue first, and this is to help me shape the eye. And I'm going to put it there, and then I'm going to put paper mache mix over it. So let's go ahead and give that a try now. I don't think it's going to adhere at first, so it's going to take some work. It's not going to cooperate immediately. And using the paper mache and the tissue, my hope is that I'll be able to shape it nicely. And that's actually sticking pretty well, surprisingly. And the great news is that since it is tissue, you can just break it easy if you need to. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stuff it right into that opening. Oh, that actually is really good. I want that to be a bit heavier, so I'm just going to take advantage right now and add another one right there on top to give it like a heavy brow. But before I do that, I'm going to double check my reference. So here's my reference, and I think it is safe to do that, but I want to build it up a little bit around the center to give it like a brow. So I'm going to take my piece and I'm gonna break it in such a way that it only leaves a smaller piece that I can put right on top to start shaping the brow. That piece we're going to put right here. Happy with that placement? Now I'm going to put a bit more paper mache mix to hold it in place. And since it's tissue, it'll just soak it right up, which is good. Hopefully just long enough for us to tape it and definitely hold it in place. This is a bit more yellow because it is wood glue. Now, off camera, I'm just going to finish stuffing this empty space here on both sides. Okay, now I've stuffed the sides and I'm going to do the same thing that I did over here. I'm going to repeat that over here on this side. And I'm not sure if I'm going to repeat it on the bottom yet because I think the bottom is a little bit different. Just going to take this and stuff it in to the edge so it holds nicely. And finish it up. By applying some paper mache mix. And I'm also going to add a little bit right there on top, like I did over there. I think that's a good start. Now I need to look again at my reference to decide what I'm going to do for the bottom part of the eye. The bottom of the eye is much flatter, so I don't want to use a tissue for that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a little piece of cardboard and I'm just going to insert it there so it looks nice and flat the way it's supposed to be. Before I cut out that flat piece, I am going to add a small piece here. So when I add the flat piece, it connects nicely. So I'm just going to add a piece to curve this eye in a little bit more, and then I'll add the flat piece right there under for both eyes. Something like that, just to curve it down a bit, and then when I come in and I add the flat piece, it's going to connect there nicely. Apply some paper mache mix just to hold that in place. And do the same thing to the other side. So we're going to cut out a piece of cardboard like that, and I'm just with hot glue, I'm going to place that right here. I'm actually going to cut out two of those, one for this side and one for that side. And then I think it's just a matter of reinforcing it with tape, and we can move on to the muzzle and the nose. There they both are. I'm going to attach them with some hot glue now. So I've glued those in, and this little piece fell out while I was gluing it in, so I put some hot glue behind it. It's very malleable still, so we'll have to wait and see if that's really a success or not. When it dries, we'll really know if it's hard enough to put tape on top of, but we still have to wait and see. So the next step is I'm probably going to use the same technique just to build on the muzzle here to make it a bit more elevated, and then give this a bit more form. But instead of using tissue, I'm going to try to use some paper, some napkins, to see if that will give it a little bit more strength. Also, in the reference image there isn't a big hole here, but those are the holes that I'm hopefully going to be able to see out of still. So I'm going to keep those. So I've changed my mind. I think I'm going to do this the slightly more traditional way that we've been doing it, and I'm going to wrap this napkin in paper, and I'm going to use that to create the wrinkles here one by one. I'm looking at my reference and it doesn't seem like there's too many wrinkles, but before that I can just show you quickly how to add some texture to the nose. So if you have a nose, just let the hot glue build up, and then we're either going to cover this over with paper mache, and if it's not the right shape, you can shape it a bit with the hot glue gun itself. Just use the metal part of the hot glue gun to shape it, make it smoother, or whatever you feel like you have to do. Now you might not be able to see that, but that has added some texture. And when it's dry, I'll go back and I'll shape it to make it a bit smoother. So I've done just what I said I would, and I taped up that napkin, and now I'm trying to find the best placement to start these wrinkles based on my reference. And I think that this is a pretty good spot actually, and I accidentally just touched the nose, and I can tell it's starting to dry up. So right now what you could do is just, with the heat of the gun, you go in and you could just smooth that out. And that creates a pretty nice effect. For later we're gonna either paper mache it or plaster it. Don't touch it again. So now what I'm going to do is I am just going to add these two pieces here. I don't want it to cover up the eye very much, so I might either cut it again or try to place it behind the eye or curl it. It's creating a bit of a problem because of the holes here, because normally it would come right down from there, but again, this is a mask, so we're trying to fit it to a human face and still have it make some sense. So I think I'm going to cut this again. Okay, so I've cut it again, and it's very small, and I'm just going to add it there, and then I'm going to start building up more of those wrinkles right here. So I built that up a bit. I think I'm feeling a bit forced to go back to the tissue. I think that will help me easily build up the muzzle here. I thought that it would be a problem because it might not have the strength, but it's a risk I'm going to have to take right now. Now here for starters, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that tissue again, and I'm just going to build that right up here in the center to give it some height. Same way that I did before. Just glue here in the center. I'm going to put my tissue. And now I'm going to soak that tissue with my paper mache mix. And like this might have the strength, so it all depends on how it dries. If it dries nice and stiff, then we're in business. But if it doesn't, then we need to go back to the drawing board. But we won't know that until we try it. And of course, since it is so soaked, I'm not quite sure how it's going to dry either. It might dry a different shape, but it's very nice and easy to build up textures with it. So it might work, it might not. Right now I'm going to take the risk. So that gives me plenty of volume there. Now I'm going to add the sides here, but I'm going to make those a bit wrinkled up. And I don't know if it's going to do any good, but I am going to try to reinforce this just a bit with some hot glue. So I've put some hot glue here on the sides in hopes that it will help it adhere more. I don't really know if that's going to work or not, but we're going to learn. We're going to learn together. I have hopes. Let me not get them too high because it might not work out. Now I'm going to add one more piece here and one more piece here, just building it up and kind of wrinkling it. I tore it a little bit so it's not as big. To add that glue on there. And I'm going to go ahead and just put my tissue. My hot glue is kind of mixing with the real paper mache, they're not playing nice together. They're fighting each other. And now I'm going to soak this side. Hopefully it keeps that wrinkled texture. Smooth out the side here. And that looks pretty nice. There's a gap here that needs to be filled, but plus I don't think it's going to stay this way even if it works, because I'm going to plaster on top. So I'm going to fill this gap and I'm going to fill that, and then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. You don't want to touch that tissue very much once it's on there. It is sticky, which is a good sign. Hopefully later it dries very stiff and it dries together and it doesn't just fall off. Even if it fell off, we could put tape on top and stop it from falling off. So it just has to more or less fill the space. And now just the piece of tissue back there to fill that gap. Now we're going to add those wrinkles to the other side. Trying to flatten it out by adding more paper mache mix. Shape it so it's not too round. Make sure that it's symmetrical with the other side. So I think I need to start shaping it out a bit and add where you need to add. So I feel like I need to add some here and maybe a little bit out here to make sure that it's symmetrical. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm actually quite happy with that. It's not easy to see the texture on video, so I'll turn it sideways, but I'm really happy with that. Hopefully the experiment with the tissue works well and it'll dry hard, and maybe if it dries, depending on how it dries, we might not even have to put plaster on that area because the texture is really nice. I would like to smooth out the eyebrows a bit, so, and I don't know, it's really soft, so I really don't know how it's going to dry, but we will learn, I suppose. Okay, now I'm going to start working on the teeth, And if you saw the Koopa Troopa video, and I have the Koopa Troopa here, in the Koopa Troopa video, the same way that I did the fingers, that's how I'm going to do the teeth here for the lion. If you didn't watch that video, don't worry, because I'll show you exactly what I'm going to do. It's just for those of you that already saw that, so you kind of have an idea already. Okay, so I'm getting ready to add the teeth, but going back to my reference and look at yours carefully, there's like a little bit of gum showing, and there's some small teeth there right before the canines, or the large sharp teeth at the top. There's also some gum showing here at the bottom. So I'm going to do the same thing over here, and then I'm going to put the big canines, and then I may put gum right back there in that space. So right now what I'm doing is I'm going to create two of these, and I'm going to add one here and one here. So I've added the gum to the top and the bottom. Now I'm thinking about how I'm going to add the teeth for those areas. Alright, I've decided the way that I'm going to add the small teeth is I'm just going to take that rolled up paper and I'm going to cut it into shape. There's 6 teeth on the top, 6 on the bottom, and the 2 outermost of the small ones on the top are sharp. So I'm going to try to keep those sharp. The rest are small and kind of dull, so I think any bit from here will probably work, but I am going to try to seal it up with tape. Okay, the teeth are going on, and I'm cutting it the way that I said I would, but I'm sealing it. So since it's too small to tape, what I'm doing is I'm sealing it with a little bit of hot glue wherever it stays open, and that's how I'm attaching them. So I finished adding the front teeth. I'm going to start working on the bottom teeth now, but before I did that, I decided to get a paper towel, wrap it in tape, and that's going to serve as the gum. This is too long. I just wanted to show you, you need to cut it to size and then position it properly so it feels like the gum. And of course I'm going to cut that so it's a bit more similar to the other side, and I'm going to glue it in. Okay, I put in the gums in the bottom, and I prepared this as one of the back teeth because my mouth is too exposed. Even though my reference, you can't really see those back teeth, I think I'm going to put one in there. And then I'm going to add the bottom teeth, and I'm going to add the canines. And this is just cardboard cut out, 2 pieces. I taped one up, and I cut another one, and I'm going to glue them together to give them a bit of thickness. And I'm going to pinch the ends together, and then I'm going to glue it in there. Of course, I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Alright, so the bottom teeth are on. I added this molar, I guess. I'm not sure what it would be called. And now I'm just going to add the canines. And I think that's going to wrap up the video. That's quite a bit already. Alright, remember for the teeth, we are going to first draw out a tooth sideways. And then we're going to combine that with kind of like a triangle that we're going to curve. So we'll cut this one in half, curve it, and put it on the side here. Now of course you have to measure to make sure that's right. That's just a small example on how that's going to work. When you finally decide on the right size, you have to keep in mind that both of these, the top and the bottom, need to fit comfortably. So the top has to be bigger than the bottom, and I think that size is about right. So when you finally decide on a size, make a copy or use it as a stencil to cut out another one for this side, and then repeat the process for the top. I'm going to do that right now. Well, I'm going to make the copy for here, and then I'm going to combine it with the other piece. I'll show you. Okay, now I have this part and I have this part. Now the one that's more triangular, we're going to bend so it follows the curve. We're going to cut that in half. and we are going to glue it on the side. We're going to glue it like this. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And if you do it right, it should give you something like that. You can shape it still, so I think this side is a bit too wide, so I'm going to cut it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in these edges just with hot glue, and I'm going to tape it, and it's going to be pretty solid, and it's going to fit right here. And I'm going to do that with both of them, and I'm going to do that at the top. And that's it. Next time I come back on video, those will probably be done. Okay, so the teeth are done. Well, the front teeth and the canines are done. I still think, since this is not like a normal lion, it's really a mask. In all of my references, you can't really see any of the other teeth. But I do think that it would benefit me a bit to put in some of those other teeth. Maybe one more back here and one up here. Because it just feels like there's a gap there that I'd rather not have. So far it seems like this is going to dry okay. It's not going to be super stiff, but it creates a great texture. I'm going to go back in on the next video and add more texture. I don't know how far I'm going to take that, but I really do like that effect. And I think that the teeth came out great. You can't paper mache over those teeth, so they might just get a coat of plaster with a brush, and hopefully they stiffen up a bit. They are a bit stiff, I think. Maybe even with just some paint, but I do want them to be smooth to get the wrinkles out of the teeth. And that's it for this video, guys. So let's remember, we did the eyes. We added some texture there to the muzzle and we raised it a bit. We also added some texture above the eyes. We added texture to the nose, and we did the teeth. We're almost done with this project. The next few videos will probably be the last ones. See you in class.